Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a very interesting topic, and that is the role of dependency and people-pleasing when you are involved in a relationship with someone who is psychopathic. Someone who does not have a conscience, someone who does not live by a sense of morality, someone who does not have the internal wiring that engages them in the ability to connect with others in any sort of really emotional capacity. Meaning that someone who is psychopathic can be very highly functioning intellectually, meaning that they are understanding things from a cognitive or a memory standpoint from how to manipulate others, and then ingratiate or get others to be dependent on them and feed into this persona or the outward appearance of such. So an act, a sham, a scam, a deceitful, duplicitous nature is what is involved in someone who is psychopathic. And these individuals don't have to be ultra violent to be diagnosed or labeled or characterized as such. And although we're not here to diagnose or treat individuals, it's very important for you to understand that these people, these types of individuals, can find themselves in any and all walks of life, in any and all cultures and countries. So to be psychopathic, someone ultimately is antisocial, meaning they are intra-species predators. They utilize their wiring, which is largely devoid of the prefrontal cortex, which is the ability to, and also a connection with the limbic brain, which makes emotional sense of things, and then connection to the higher orders of the brain, which give you a sense of moral direction, moral compass, a sense to understand the ideas of right or wrong, or hurting others or exploiting and not. So the ability to perceive, comprehend, and then act by such understanding is severed or disconnected in the minds and brains of individuals who are psychopathic. And Dr. Robert Hare, a Canadian psychologist, is really at the forefront of really sort of studying and understanding this, and including, he developed the Dr. Hare checklist, which is widely in use today, but it's largely the understanding that these individuals can also be highly exploitative and dangerous to others, and that they're going to engage in a lot of manipulative, controlling, and taking over of others in sort of a psychological manner, creating a dependency upon them. And they're able to use sort of the tools that they're able to perceive and what others fall for and mimic these behaviors, specifically those who they want to obtain something from, i.e. sex, companionship, a place to live, someone to rule over, someone to dominate, someone to push around, someone to deceive, sort of creating like a moving parts a pawn in a game. And so part of their motive is to get others dependent upon them, dependent on them for filling their time. And they do this by breaking other people down to the point where really they cannot think for themselves. They sort of they engage in a self-abandonment profile where they abandon their regular routine, abandon their values, abandon their families, abandon themselves ultimately, and they give themselves over to what is really sort of a psychological hijacking or taking over of this individual and their thought process, and then realign and reconfigure this individual's thought process to then think like this psychopathic individual, and to take on their values, take on their judgment, and take on a perverted way of thinking about things. So you really are kind of running from this outside entity, which is predatory in nature, meaning that they're going to take not only time, energy, but something also, very sadistic and sort of causing you to become unraveled from the inside out. And it's very difficult to sew yourself back together or put the pieces back after you've engaged in this unraveling or this brainwashing and gaslighting from this individual. And so it's very important to understand the way that these individuals work and how they cause you to break you down, how they get you to violate your sense of boundaries, how they get you to abandon or let go of what you hold dear or what you hold to be right. So engaging in, for the psychopath, that is to understand that these individuals have a high sensitivity to dopamine, and oftentimes it's felt that they have a high testosterone. So making them particularly aggressive and unfeeling in nature. So when they are onto something that they want that's going to help them to fulfill their scheme, their agenda, whatever it is that they're looking for, they will really be at it in sort of an aggressive and ferocious Wolverine-like mentality. In other words, they will go at it with, a high, they won't let go. The dopamine is a kind of a feel-good neurochemical. It's what makes you feel good. It's what's rewarding. It's the one that makes you say, yes, let's do this. And then, so a psychopath, whatever, they have a feeling that because they are understanding that they are wired differently from the mass of society. In other words, they don't get caught up with relationships. They don't get caught up with morality. They don't these things aren't obstacles for them. Having a relationship and having an emotional connection is not anything that takes any sort of gravitas or weight or emotional consideration. They are devoid of this. So they are perceive themselves to be liberated and have an easy picking and an easy target at others because of this. So they're able to manipulate, especially those others who fit the profile, to be easily accessible in this manner. So they'll target people and also continue on and not really give up. And so the breaking down of people oftentimes is engaged in high risk, highly sexualized behavior that then creates a dependency or a sort of reliance on this relationship, and has the feeling, they are able to create the feeling in this individual that you have just met your match. You've met the love of your life. You've met the answer to your prayers. You've met your partner in business. So they're able to tell you what you want to hear, but have no ability or desire or intention to back that up or to be realistic in this. There is no relationship there. Even though on the outside there is the appearance of such, they have no commitment, no connection, no authentic desire to follow up or follow through of such. And so it's very, very disheartening to individuals who have become wrapped up in this dependency or this reliance or this sort of encompassing, because they tend to take these people in and then allow themselves, unbeknownst to them, to be rewired within their value system, and then thinking that this person is their new number one, that you and them are omnipotent. Together you can do anything together. You can feel anything. You can go anywhere. So there's this sort of, releasing of the responsibilities and feeling like all of a sudden everything is okay when you're with this person. So there becomes an addiction. There becomes a dependence, and then there becomes a people-pleasing pattern, which is then incorporated in the relationship sort of agenda, the way it meshes and pulls together. And, the people-pleasing meaning that you're going to follow their commands. The psychopath is going to become sort of an enigma in their speech. They're going to say things that are out of the ordinary, but all of a sudden begin to make a new sense to you. not in a healthy, internalized, sense, but more that it's more of a taking over or a self-abandonment, meaning things that you thought, that you were disciplined about, things that you know to be right, things that you enforce for yourself, begin to go, out the window. And then all that seems to matter then is acquiescing to this person's needs or conforming to the image that this person has of you, oftentimes meaning taking you off of your centeredness, taking you off of your sort of ability to direct and have instinctual knowledge of what is right and what is wrong. And so they begin then to violate your sense of your standards and blow them out the window. And the way that they do this is to break you down, not only through the repetition, but being in front of you 24/7. They're at you at your work, they're at you while you're driving, they're at you while you're brushing your teeth, while you're supposed to be sleeping. You'll receive these sweet little nothings, these pictures, these smiles, and oftentimes the psychopathic gaze, which people tend to become transfixed on. All of a sudden they feel like they're almost in a hypnotic state. And this look oftentimes is very alluring, or it serves to take you off your guard. You can all of a sudden have moments of solitary, peace with this person, where usually other relationships feel a lot different. So this relationship begins to feel a lot different to you. In other words, you feel that you're out of your regular realm of feeling. Is a good indicator that, when you're with this person, that all of a sudden you feel this total sense of kind of asphyxiation, or like you're with your life partner and you feel a sense of euphoria. And this can oftentimes occur right away, and that's because your own values are being reset by this person, and oftentimes there's a hyper-sexualization or a breaking down of your own sense of self-respect, what you would give yourself to, what you would give yourself to in an intimacy basis, or what you would work on, what you consider your life work, or like your family, things you hold dearest seem to become irrelevant. And now the hypersexualization is really the result that someone who is psychopathic really does not feel an adherence to the law as such. So they feel above and beyond. So in other words, the law is just what keeps the masses in play, and it keeps them in place, and it has no relevance to them. So whatever it is that they want, they will take, including the ability to create a sort of posse or a subterfuge of parasitic relationships, and with which they have no emotional connection to. In other words, they have no sort of remorse or regret, and they will then play people and their expectations. So in other words, they have no problem doing things like moving pictures around, taking pictures of you and putting them up, making it seem like you're the center of their world, making it seem like they're going to create, put your groceries in the refrigerator to make it seem like this is your home. Doing things like ruffling up their bed to make it look like they slept somewhere when they did not. Moving things around in the environment to get you to pay attention to specific things, and create a little bit of a fear and paranoia that only they can then answer for you. Very enigmatic, puzzling speech, the way that they move their body, the way that they then communicate when they position themselves at a specific place in a room, getting you to reconsider sort of the way things look, the way things create a meaning to you. In other words, they begin to take over your sensibility and get you to reconfigure and reconnect your meaning to things. And this is very terrifying. It's as if they will then disembody that which is truth around you, and then disembody truth for them. They place themselves in your realm of truth. So truth, what you know to be you, what you love, hold dear, kind of how you naturally communicate becomes dismantled or taken down, oftentimes through, hypersexualization or high-risk behaviors, and then dismantling your emotional connection to what you have to the world around you. For example, I have right here, this is a holy wood. I use this oftentimes, and I talk about in my book about resensitization and how to, resensitize yourself. This is called Palo Santo wood. It's a very beautiful wood. It's a slow burning wood. It's known also as the holy wood, and it has a very beautiful scent, a very sort of sublime, ethereal scent. In other words, it sort of resets the vibration around you. It begins to call yourself to the holy, the divine intelligence, the sort of etheric realms. If you can burn this, you can get this at Amazon and specific areas, but it's a really wonderful thing. And as I was just looking at it, you can see that there are, you can see the sinews of, or the grain of this wood. And so a psychopath would then reconfigure the growth of this stick, and then sort of equate their own musculature to this, and that they, are, the way that their body is, emanating of this scent, which is giving you, this ethereal experience. So they will reconfigure the value and the truth of things to be, possessed by them. So it is really sort of like a possession. Very, very scary, but the way that they reconfigure and realign meaning assorted to things, which can then really, really be disorienting, dehumanizing, cause to a sort of desensitization of yourself and a depersonalizing of yourself in life, where you no longer kind of feel at command or control of your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your directions. It can be very alarming and scary as such, but you can, sort of come and emerge out of that very, very scary sort of fog and clouded thinking that these individuals will instill upon you. They'll try to erase and rewrite that internal system, that internal guiding system that you have. And, depending on how long you've been involved with this, you need to restore it, you need to reclaim it, you need to reset it. And you need to really you really need to resensitize yourself on all levels, and then realize where, not only, to be informed and educated that this type of individual is out there. These are not only people of violence, these are people who will literally be disruptive in your life, and their aim and their goal is for your ruin. They will be there, and they know this. They understand that once they get people hooked, and sort of dependent upon them, they then know that people don't have the tools to become undependent or not dependent upon them. And so they have them fooled, deceived, manipulated into them believing that they are in a relationship with this individual, and as such, and that, so they have, the ability to make this happen, but it's through unordinary ways of communicating, positioning their bodies, configuring speech, which studies have also shown that those people who are psychopathic also do not register the same emotions in events, music, words, situations. They do not feel love. They really don't feel fear. They don't have an emotional connection. They don't feel the need of, they don't feel humanity. They feel that this is just a setback. Sort of the ability to have appreciation for things, like appreciation for your country, appreciation for, hard work, appreciation for self-sacrifice or freedom or love, or the abstracts in life, sort of that creativity or feats that have gone to create light, those philosophers, those inventors, those leaders. So they don't have that sentimental, emotional connection at all to life. It's just all about moving parts, and they really don't, they perceive people, you know, in a very heartless, not connected manner, and they're able to intellectualize or perform or make it appear as such with mimicry connection to others. So it's very important to understand that if you are in a relationship where you feel dependent on somebody and that you can't go on without them, you better keep yourself in check. You know, it is very, very lethal to be involved where you are in a dependent relationship, where you are dependent on someone emotionally, and your external locus of control is what's running you. In other words, if something were to happen, you were to be a mess. Yes, there's love, companionship, good relationships that go on where you would feel loss and grief, but if you feel that you cannot direct your life and you cannot stop the flow of, you know, of especially intimacy, and that your life is run by this individual and that you're sort of beside yourself, then you might really want to take a look at how you are being manipulated, and having the braveness and the courage to see it as such, and to see them for taking you over and derailing your thought process. It is not a relief to have your thought process derailed. It is really to get into trouble if you have allowed this to become into play. It is not fun. It is not amusing. It is not enjoyable to, you know, sort of have this elated sense of addiction that is set in emotion, or this sort of altered state of consciousness that the psychopath can create, where then you're in a people-pleasing or psychopathic-pleasing relationship. They are not smarter than you. They are not better than you. You have what it takes to become uninvolved and unparticipate and say no and stop the relationship. You know, sometimes the pain, people do not have leverage over themselves, meaning the ability to change until the pain is great enough, or until they see it and they hit rock bottom. And oftentimes then things are really out of whack. I mean, things are very scary. You find yourself in a very uncomfortable place. So until the pain is great enough, oftentimes it becomes the setting where you need to then say, I need help. And so really, a lot of the tools that I discuss here are a way for you to help yourself. And things will get better, but oftentimes I want you to really look at those people-pleasing behaviors and let them go. You are the one where the value resides, the meaning, the health, the focus, the clarity, the strength, the love comes from within. And so you need to become then more attached and connected to yourself and detached from this individual and the perverted way of thinking that they had instilled upon you, and become independent from them, unreliant, unaddicted, detached, dissolved from that judgment state that was instilled upon you. And oftentimes it's understanding how this was set into motion, oftentimes through the hypersexualization or the meaning where everything was distorted and perverted as to such, where in other words they got you to see things in a hyper-sexualized manner where everything had a sexual context. That is not romance. That is not having the best relationship. That is not treating your body well. That is to be stay in a hypersexualized state where you're hyper-aroused and you cannot think clearly. That is where you literally, your life becomes out of control, your body becomes out of control and hyper-aroused, where everything can kind of set you off. This is not to live in a highly thrilled state. This is a very lonely space to be, because you're connected and addicted to an individual who has no intention of being there for you. They are just taking advantage and getting you hyper-aroused and dependent. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Love you. Peace out.